Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer briefing on implementing Azure SQL Database Security. I'll be acting as your senior DBA and resident Microsoft Azure SQL Database expert today. We're going to thoroughly review the critical concepts and steps you need to absolutely master before you dive into your hands-on labs. By the time we finish this overview, you're going to understand exactly how to lock down an Azure SQL environment from the outside in.
Here is our mission plan for today. We'll be hitting 1. The security implementation mission, 2. Setting up your environment, 3. Configuring Azure Firewall rules, 4. Creating contained database users, and 5. Cleaning up your resources. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. The Security Implementation Mission. So, your main objective today is to step into the shoes of a senior database administrator. Your primary directive? Secure the AdventureWorks LT database environment directly inside the Azure Portal. Now, this mission requires extreme precision. You'll literally be copying and pasting specific T-SQL code to modify existing SQL resources. As the best practice, you must always verify your syntax before execution. I mean it, a single misplaced comma is all it takes to cause a deployment to fail, so your attention to detail is your absolute best tool here.
Moving right along to Section 2, setting up your environment.
Before we can actually secure anything, we've got to review the deployment phase. This is where we lay the programmatic foundation for our secure architecture. First things first, you're going to ensure your local workspace is prepped. You'll clone the lab repository directly from GitHub into a local folder. Specifically, your C drive under the lab files directory using Visual Studio Code. This simply gives you all the scripts you need locally to execute the deployment. Okay, once you have those files sitting locally, your next step is to authenticate with the Azure environment. You're going to pop open the integrated terminal in VS Code, fire off the Azure CLI command azlogin, and authenticate through your web browser. After you're logged in, you will run the provided PowerShell deployment script. It's called deploy-SQL Database.ps1, and that is going to programmatically spin up your SQL Server and your database. Now, what's really cool about this deployment script is just how flexible it is. By default, it's set up to create a Contoso-RG resource group and deploy everything to the West US2 region, but you are not locked into that. You can easily customize these variables using parameters like -rg name or -location. But most importantly for our security focus today, you'll be setting up the SQL admin password. The script will generate a random 12-character password for you, or you can pass your own using -SQL admin P. Just keep in mind, Azure doesn't force strict complexity requirements. We are talking at least 12 characters, mixing uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and special characters. So, here is a crucial detail to keep in mind, and definitely a key takeaway from how this script behaves. The deployment script automatically grabs your current public IP address and injects it right into the SQL Server's firewall rules. This is a massive early security step. It ensures the perimeter is locked down to the outside world by default, while making sure you don't accidentally lock yourself out of the very server you just finished building.
And that brings us perfectly to Section 3, configuring Azure Firewall rules. Now that the server is up and running, we need to explicitly verify and manage our perimeter layer. Over in the Azure Portal, you'll search for and navigate to your newly created SQL Server. From that overview screen, jump straight into the networking settings. Under the firewall rules, you need to visually confirm that your client IPv4 address is listed and saved. Look, even though the script handled it, a good DBA always verifies. Trust but verify. If for some reason it's missing, just click Add your client IPv4 address and hit Save.
All right, once your IP is officially allowed through that server-level firewall, you can securely connect. You'll open up SQL Server Management Studio, or SSMS, and log in using the server name and those highly complex admin credentials we set up earlier. From there, you're going to import the AdventureWorks LT Bacpac file. You just right-click Databases, select Import a Data Tier Application, and configure it to deploy as a basic edition Azure SQL database named AdventureWorks from Bacpac. Now we get to a really powerful feature. Database-level firewalls. You'll open a brand new query window against your newly imported database and execute this exact stored procedure. sp_set_database_firewall_rule. And remember to replace those zeros with your actual IP address. So why are we doing this? Well, while server-level firewalls protect the entire logical server, database-level firewalls are scoped specifically to the individual database itself. It's a fantastic way to enforce strict, granular security, which makes your database way more portable and resilient. Let's keep the momentum going with Section 4, creating contained database users.
The perimeter is completely secure. Now it is time to lock down the interior. In a new query against the AdventureWorks database, you'll run this simple T-SQL command, create user contained demo with password. What makes this so special is that word right there, contained. A contained user isolates authentication entirely to that specific database. They have absolutely zero login access at the master server level. This dramatically shrinks your attack surface and flawlessly follows the principle of least privilege. Now, here's a fascinating little quirk of the system. If you try to test this new contained user right away, just typing in contained demo and hitting connect, you are going to fail. You will intentionally trigger Microsoft SQL Server error 18456. This happens because SSMS, by default, is going to try to authenticate you against the master database. But think about it. We just created a contained user. That user does not exist in master. They literally only exist inside AdventureWorks from Bacpac. So how do we actually get around that? You fix this connection context error by selecting Options right there on the login screen. Then under the Connection Properties tab, you explicitly type AdventureWorks from Bacpac directly into the Connect to Database field. When you click Connect this time, boom, you'll get right in. This is brilliant because it definitively proves the user is perfectly contained to just that specific database, totally validating your security configuration.
Let's wrap things up with Section 5, cleaning up your resources.
A professional DBA never leaves a mess behind, right? We have to discuss extraction and teardown so you don't leave potentially vulnerable, not to mention cost incurring resources running indefinitely in your Azure environment. You have 3 final cleanup tasks. First, tear down the entire resource group in the Azure Portal, which wipes out the SQL Server and the database together. Or, if you're sharing the resource group, be careful and just delete the standalone SQL resources you created. Finally, wipe that local C Drive lab files directory from your machine to ensure absolutely no sensitive scripts or passwords are left lying around on your hard drive. And there you have it. You now understand the architectural reasoning and the exact mechanics behind every single step of this Azure SQL security deployment. You know how to deploy the infrastructure, lock down the perimeter with firewalls, secure the interior with contained users, and safely clean it all up. Your overview briefing is complete. But before you jump into the hands-on labs, I want you to ask yourself this. As your cloud environments scale to thousands of databases, how are you going to automate these strict perimeter and internal boundaries at an enterprise level? Keep that thought in the back of your mind as you grab your lab guide, open up your Azure portal, and go execute today's mission. Good luck!
In this section of lab, we'll go through lab 4 of DP-300 Database Administrator, and lab 4 is configure Azure SQL Database Firewall to ensure that the security of the database environment. And let me focus that one. So first you need to go through the document, and there is a repository URL to get the resources or to get the lab files so that you can follow the lab environment. I'll share this link into description section so that you can follow when you do into your own environment. So after that, I'm going to that folders, lab folders, and selecting the labs. So I'm just click on open in Windows Terminal. Let me zoom in, Control plus sign. So now here I'm going to connect Azure. So for the typing the command az login, press enter. So for logging in, now here you need to select that ID password. So in my case, that is work and school account. Select continue and give the ID password here when that prompt. Or access key. Your password, you can click that button that will allow you to pass password. Click sign in. and then click done. So when that is done, we are going to execute a script. um, okay, press that enter because the values it has got, I am fine with that one. So if you go that folder structure, you can go to that labs and you can go through like setup, and you can read this biceps script. So if you have PowerShell knowledge or script knowledge, you can go through and you can see what it is doing. So I'm not going to explain, but this is all like self-explanatory, but it's a language like PowerShell. So it is doing that one. And also there is a biceps. You can go through. This is automation script. To open with some notepad. Click OK. You can see those information there. So what it is doing, what the services it is going to create. So ultimately, it's going to create a database, and under that, all the different resources group, location, password. In our first and second lab, we saw that the values we normally pass through the console. Here, actually, it's going through the console, and it has got set up there. So it's executing that script now. So for that one, we are going to that change directory to setup directory, and then execute that script. PowerShell script. Press enter. So you can see that it's creating faster like security script, then it's getting that public IP from my system, and it's generated resource group, but it's already there. So it's just giving a message that already exists resource group using that one. And when the deployment complete, you will see the deployment results down below here. So now let's go to the portal. Then let's go to the view all resources, and then you can see the SQL Server DP-300. Select that one. An overview screen, you can see that SQL server name. So copy that one. Now go to networking settings. So you can go it from security, and then you can see the networking. And here you can see that different options are available. Also like firewall rules. So go to this firewall rules section. And here you see that the add your client IP. So add that one and select save just to make sure that my IP address is allowing here. Then open the Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. So in that back here, you can see the server name. That paste the server name here, and then authentication. Select that SQL Server authentication, and the username for this one is SQL admin, and the password is password entry here, and then after that select that connect button. So now You can see that there is a database options. Then you can select here. The option is import a, or there are different options, but here you select that the import a data tier applications. And in this page, that import data tier application page, first one is introduction. It's just given informations here to import like a file, what you must need to do. Then click next. Then it's coming, you get the import settings page. So here, import from a local disk. So for that, you browse, get that file locations. And this file, you see that backup file, which is a BSC PSC file, and click on open. So you get the files here. Then in this page, select that next option. Now you see the database settings page. So database settings page, you see this the new database name. So you can put that this database from, give a meaningful name for our lab purpose, but for actual environment you can just give the database name that you want. Then all others value, you are just taking the default one, database as service objects or edition, database editions. So you can see there are different editions available. So here we are selecting standard one. Then click next button. Then here in the summary section, you can see the summary of this page. Uh, and because this is a tiny one, so you can see that very quickly, but sometimes it can take little time to get all the informations collected here. Then in this page, select the finish button. And when you finish that, based on your objects, how much or what the size of your source database, it just and the backup one, it will take time based on that one. So let me back when this is done. So from here you can see what it is actually doing. So importing database and relate to, you can see all the options progressing. To see fewer details, you can click this button. So let it continue. I'll be back when that is done. Just showing you so that you know what it is doing. So you can get a message that operation is complete. So that means this restore is done. So now close this one. Now back into the SQL Server Management Studio, expand the databases. And here we are, we can see that Adventure works from Bacpac database. So to execute a query, we can just click on new query. You can also do that from right click here. When the transact query window open, copy the code which is in document or lab section, lab document. So here we need to replace with the IP address. So let me go there and get this IP. So this is my client IP address, and let me execute that one. So one row is affected, you can see that it actually setting database firewall rule. Next, we will create a content user in this database. So for that, let me open a new query window and type the command. So execute that one. So we are getting error message that goes. So let me put it down. That is a syntax issue. Let me execute again. And that's good. So this command creates a content user within the like this database itself. Now you see that Object Explorer section. Select that connect options. Select the database engines. We are going to connect the users that we created content demo. So this particular users here. So here login section, we are going to use that content demo. Okay, let me type here then. And then click on connect. Okay, so we got a message like cannot connect to that one. Login failed for this user. This error is generated because the connection attempted to log into the master database. So because we are trying to connect here, so when you select that one, it's trying to connect from the master database, not the database under we created that content demo user. So let me close that one. So now what we'll do after logging in into the connection properties, we will select the database name that adventure work from Bacpac that the user we created here. So from here we'll browse that particular database and pass those values here. So from here, by connecting with SQL admin password, I can select the right database. So here now I am going to select this adventure work from backup, then click OK. So I have selected that one. Then I go back to login sections. Now I'm going to the username. So content demo and giving the password. Then click on connect. So now you can see that I'm successfully authenticated using the content demo users. So we have successfully completed this lab. It's always recommended or good practice for the lab environment to remove the resource group or the resources that you are not using to avoid additional cost. So for that you can go to the resource group and then delete resource group. But if you think that you need some resources from there, then you can just go individually to drop that service. So that's all for this section of lab. Please subscribe to my channel, and if you have any comments, please add that into comment section. Thank you.